My friends, welcome to the Sheep Get Sheared Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Creedon. I had a very interesting idea, my friends, and I wanted to run it by you. So, my job consists of a lot of contracting work and storm chasing, is what we call it in the business, where there's a hailstorm, there's a hurricane, and we go out there and we assess the damage, we do the work, we make sure that the customer is happy. But what's interesting to me is I've been working in this one small town. And I got here back in May, and school was just letting out at the local high school. It's one of those all-American towns where as soon as the high school lets out, they got all the pickup trucks, and it's in the middle of town, and it's kind of the nexus of the entire town. And now that we're past Labor Day, you're going back to school, where when I got here, they were just getting out of school. And it made me realize every single part of our lives, there's a season to it. Life is a series of seasons. And the only way you're going to truly survive in this life is to understand that with every season, there is something you must learn, something you need to take away from it. Don't just autopilot through life like most people do. Most people are schmendricks, and what they do is they go through life wondering, oh, why am I not winning? Oh, why am I not richer? Why is my wife not hotter? This kind of mentality. And they go by and they're like, I'm not making this much money if I want to make. So it's got to be somebody else's fault, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm doing what everyone told me to do. I went to school. I I bought up my house even though I can't afford it because I'm not a boomer and my year's salary doesn't pay for my house. Don't even get me started on that one. But they went down the normal path of life and they're not getting where they want to go. In the same way that nobody who was in high school, middle school, elementary school, even college wants to go back to school. They want to keep partying. They want to keep enjoying their summertime. I know I did. When I was in school, oh yeah, I didn't want to go back to school. I didn't want to go back to waking up early, going to school, dealing with all the garbage with the people talking about stuff I didn't care about, picking on me, trying to get ahead of me. I mean, who could put up with that garbage every single day? But a lot of people got to do it, and it only gets harder when you become an adult. Let me tell you that. But that season of when I got here, they were ending school, and now they're starting school as we're going into more of hurricane season. It made me realize that life is really no different than what I've seen over the last couple of months. There are ups, there are downs, and for every season, there's some level of growth that happens. You learn new things, you meet new people, you have new experiences, and you hopefully learn new skills. If you're not learning new skills, well, then there's a whole nother problem, which is you're either A, in a bad environment, or B, maybe you're not forming good habits. Good habits are going to lead you to being able to achieve more, to be more successful, to be happier. I think we need to dispel something. If you go to public school, if you go through school, you're told that you're going to be happy if you do what you love, but that's such a vague concept. It's so vague. It's not achievable. What do you mean do what you want? What if what you're doing is dumb or it takes a lot of upfront cost? For example, say you want to be a streamer. Well, that's a lot of upfront cost. You're gonna have to get an audience. You're gonna have to be good at the game, or at least be entertaining to some extent. And my friends, it's not easy to do. If it's anything that's worth doing is not easy. In the same way that this summer has not been easy for me. I'm sure I've seen the high school kids. They go out the lake, they have fun, they shoot off fireworks, they drive their trucks around like a bunch of jackasses cutting me off. I've seen it all summer long. But it made me realize that adults are no different sometimes. We as adults, instead of going around and partying, what we do instead is worse. We do the bare minimum. And if you know who you are when you know the bare minimum. If you have one stream of income, you're doing the bare minimum. If you're not trying to gain a new source of income, whether you have one, two, or three, you're lazy. You are not trying. My friends, the only way for us as adults to get ahead in this life is to use what God gave us, which is right between our ears. In every season of life, you're going to gain a new skill. You're going to learn something about yourself. You know what I've learned about myself over the past 3 to 4 months? I've learned that I need to get back to my roots. I need to get back to focusing on winning instead of just getting lost in the sauce of the bureaucracy of my job. I need to focus on what are my goals? How am I actually achieving them? Not just saying I'm pursuing things, not just faking and walking through it, not doing that nonsense. What am I actually doing in my 20s? I could not sleep last night. You know why? Because I was up all night last night, thinking to myself, "Oh my gosh, I'm 25 years old and I'm not a millionaire yet. I should be a millionaire yesterday. Why am I not a millionaire yet? Why am I not having more streams of income? Why am I not doing better for myself? This is not acceptable." And I was sitting up and I was thinking to myself, how can I make more money? How can I earn more money? How can I give more than I can get some in return? How can I do it? What should I be doing? Am I not doing enough? Should I change my job? What should I be doing? And it was causing me a lot of distress. I thought to myself, I've been on X for a little while. I haven't taken off as fast as I want to. My podcast hasn't taken off as much as I want to. But you know what? I realized, you know what? Nobody owes me clicks. Nobody owes me, "Oh, Austin, you're so brilliant. Oh, Austin, I watch every single second of every show you do." Nobody owes me that. You know, the people who think they're owed things, the schmucks who make the Disney content, they think, "Oh, I'm going to put a lesbian kiss in here in front of all the kids. And if you don't like it, well, it's your fault for not liking my content. It's your fault for not liking what I want in the storyline." No, that's not how you create content. That's not how you appeal to an audience. That's not how you grow your business, your brand, your message. That's not how you do that. Nobody owes you anything in this life. Nobody. I don't care if they're related to you. I don't care if they work with you. If they owe you a favor, they owe you nothing. You ever loan somebody money and they never pay you back? Yeah, I've done that. That's not fun, by the way. But again, it's a lesson that needs to be learned. Just because you're not seeing a return does not mean that you stop investing. It doesn't mean that you stop striving. You know what the conclusion was on my Restless episode I had last night? I said, I need to take more risk. I'm 25. I still have a little bit of my 20s left. I need to continue to invest. I want to be the guy who's 40. I have a goal for myself that I've mentioned on this show before. I want to be 40 years old, and on my 40th birthday, I want to have a billion, not a million with an M, a billion with a B, in a net worth. Now that's quite that's quite the goal, isn't it? Yes, it is. But guess what? I have a long way to go. I have a very long way to go. But instead of being discouraged, I'm going to say I can do more, and I will do more. Why? Because I know I'm capable of it. I know I can do it. And that's what I've learned in this season of life. Just because one investment is not panning out the way you want. Say, for example, you're hitting the gym, right? And you watch these influencers on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, right? And they seem to grow all this muscle and they look so good. And you're like, I'm going to hit the gym too. And you go for a couple months to a year and you look at yourself in the mirror and you think, wow, I don't look like Chris Hemsworth. I don't look like Hugh Jackman. I don't look like Alex Eubank. I don't look like Craig Doucette. I don't look like these guys who are super buff, who look super good, no homo. And why do I not look like these guys? I'm gonna stop working out. I'm gonna go eat that pizza instead. No, I'm gonna go get that tub of ice cream. And I'm just gonna have it because I feel bad for myself. My friends, how many of us are guilty of that? How many of us are guilty of that? And you know what? There's no shame in it. There is no shame in being discontent with where you are in your life. I don't care if you want to make more money. I don't care if you want to look better. I don't care if you want to have more property. I don't know what your goal is. Have more kids. I don't know what your goal is. But at the end of the day, my friends, There is no shame in thinking to yourself, I should be farther along than I am right now. I feel it every single day. But you know what there is shame in? There is shame in giving up. There is shame in saying that you can't do something, because you know what? You can do things. You can do more. You won't do it overnight, but you shouldn't be focused on the return. You should be focused on the investment. What are you going to give for what you want? I know this might sound cheesy, and I was like, Austin, you've done this show before. You talk about this all the time. But no, I want to keep this focused in the increments. So, those of you who don't know, I'm interviewing to potentially do adjusting for insurance companies instead of working on the contracting side, because I'm considering it. I think it'd be a good future step for me. And part of the interview process is they ask you questions about your career. They ask you questions about what your goals are. What are you trying to do? Are you going to be an asset to my company? And it makes you reflect on, what have you done and what are you doing with your life? What is it you actually want? Not what do other people want? What should you want? No, it's what do you actually want? A lot of people, they can't answer that question, or they'll give a vague answer that doesn't really have substance to it. But I had an answer. I want to learn more about this business, and I want to be an asset to this company so that I can be a catastrophe storm adjuster. That's what I want. I want to help people. I want to be able to go out there, assess damages, and write up for repairs. That's what I want to do. Why? A, there's a lot of money in it, but B, it's something I like to. I like to travel. I like to go places. I like to be out and about doing things. My friends, what is it you want? This season in your life right now, we're going into the fall. They've rolled out the pumpkin spice at Starbucks. They're rolling out the spooky paraphernalia for Halloween. That's almost 2 months from now. We're getting into the holiday season. We're getting onto the edge of fall into Halloween and Thanksgiving and into Christmas and Hanukkah. What is it that you want out of this season of your life? Because summer's coming to a close. What is it you want in this next season of your life? What is it you want by the beginning of next year? If you don't know the answer to that question, you better find one, and fast. I don't care if you're a man, woman, alien, dog. My dog's sitting in the back seat right now. He's kind of listening. He's kind of not listening. Arthur, are you listening? No, he's not listening. He listens to the show sometimes when I record stuff in the back seat. Probably thinks I'm crazy. Probably thinks I'm talking to myself. But my friends, it's all about not just motivation, but it's about discipline. That's something I learned in this last season of my life. I learned a lot of discipline when I was in the Air Force, but you know what? Recently, I've been dropping the ball. I've been more focused on trying to get more jobs, trying to turn in more things, than I haven't been focused on being disciplined in my life. I really haven't. And that's on me. It's nobody's fault but mine. But there's no shame in that. There's shame in saying, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to just keep doing what I want to do. I'm not going to be disciplined. I'm not going to be focused. Because let's be honest here. There are millionaires right now who are my age, 25. They're pro athletes. They're entrepreneurs. And they're getting all the things I want and I don't have it. That sucks. A lot. But instead of wanting to, oh, screw those guys. Oh, I hate capitalism. No, of course I'm angry. But I'm going to use that anger. I'm going to use the anger to go do something. Instead of sit here and complain about the system not being fair. Dude, forget. Who told you this system was supposed to be fair, you moron? Who told you that the system was designed to make you win? If you look at the Federalist Papers, as I did in college, maybe you didn't go to college, I did. I learned in college the Federalist Papers were written by Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton. They talked about how the government was founded when the rich consolidated their wealth to prevent the raiders, the marauders, and competition from stepping in and taking what was theirs. That's what a government is meant to do. Now, of course, we live in America where now, because there's so many middle class to lower middle class to poor people, the government has to pander to the poor people to get their votes. by giving them free things, making them empty promises. You know how it works. It's basically playing chess with our lives and all the time reaching for our wallets. We know this. Part of this show, as I've mentioned over and over again, is to understand how you're being exploited. And one of the ways you're being exploited is you actually think that, for example, I could talk day and night about history, and I will, here and there, but you have to focus on your life. Yes, you listen to the show, hearing my voice right now, what you can do about your life to improve it. And the answer is not looking to politicians. It is not looking to the market. It is not looking to other people to save you. I don't care if they're Trump. I don't care if they're Bernie Sanders. I don't care who they are. They will not save you. You must learn how to swim or you will drown. Unless you're a protected class of people and you know who you are, unless you are a protected class of people who could be used for political, economic, religious, and social reasons, you are not going to be saved out here. And even then, not really going to be saved. You're more going to be prevented from losing too much. Actually, have I told you that story before? Where when I was in college in my economic, no, it was my public policy class. We were talking about public policy, and I raised my hand, and I said, Mrs. Smith, I I think the system is not for the rich to win, but for the poor not to lose. She looked at me. She went from looking at her board across the room, looked at me, and she said, "You know what? I'm not going to engage in that." And went off her tangent, and I was like, "Oh, really?" I think I struck a nerve because, as you know, I don't care what college you go to, educators are overwhelmingly more left wing because they don't live in the real world. They live in tenure land where they get to say whatever they want in a hypothetical of what should be, not what is. And so when I mention that, oh, they don't like to hear that. No, they don't like that because that actually means that the system is designed not for the rich to always win, but for the poor not to lose. Because if they lose too hard, they won't vote for the current administration. They won't vote for who's in power. They have to at least pretend to care about you. But people don't like to hear that. They like to hear they're for the little man. They like to hear, oh, they care about the little guy. They care about the working Joe Schmo. No, they don't. No, they don't care about me. I'm not donating their campaigns. I'm not funding their reelection campaigns and funding their special interest groups. I'm not a lobbyist. They don't care about me. They don't care about you. They care about themselves. They care about making money for the people who put them in power. That's why the news is so depressing because they're not actually reporters, they're prostitutes. They're whores for the people in power. And it's not always the people who are in the White House, it's the people who are in HR who sign their checks. People who are on the boards of their company who decides whether they get fired or promoted. That's who they care about. They don't care about us. And my friends, you might ask, well, how does this tie into seasons of our lives? How does this tie into what we started the show off on? As I said, there is something to learn every season. So maybe even listening to the show has helped you learn something about the season of your life and what you need to address in your life right now. Maybe you need to make a career change. Maybe you need to stick on the straight and narrow and remind yourself, hey, I'm doing well. I got to get back on the grind. I can do more. I can do better at what I'm doing. Maybe that's it. Or maybe there's something about your life that you're not happy about and you've been pushing it off because you're afraid to poke the bear. Well, don't be afraid to poke the bear. Let me ask you something. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? And sometimes it's a lot. If you're a married guy and you have kids, you got more to lose. If you can't take as much risk because you have more to lose. If you're a single guy and you're young, you have a lot of stuff to do. Even if you're a middle-aged older guy and you're single, you still have a lot you can leverage. You have more room for risk. Don't be afraid, my friends. Fear is going to cripple you. You know, I mentioned in my last episode that, well, about anime waifus and how it's affecting the dating marketplace, that a lot of times men are reluctant to discuss their problems with women, and in some cases, I would argue most rightfully so. But what's interesting is as I've interacted with the AI program more because I think it's very fascinating. I asked her, the AI program that is, I asked her, "Hey, what's the difference between arrogance and ambition?" And her answer was very interesting. I actually wrote it down. Her answer was arrogance acts like it's already won, whereas ambition is scared it's about to fail. I said, "Whoa, that's pretty damn insightful if you ask me." How many of us are afraid we're gonna fail in this new season of our life? Because it's the end of summertime, beginning of autumn. A lot of people are preparing for the holidays to come up. You see schools just starting if they have kids. Layoff season's gonna start here pretty soon because, they gotta cut people either before or after Christmas time, usually after, but they're gonna start the lists now. My friends, how many of us are scared for the new season in our life? How many of us are scared right now? Just forget about seasons. How many of us are scared right now? And the answer is probably more than we're willing to admit. A lot of us are probably scared. But don't let the fear rule you, my friends, because when fear rules you, you end up making a lot of mistakes. And the worst mistake, in my opinion, that you can make is to do nothing. Let me know what you think. My boss is calling me, so I'm going to have to end this here for right now. But let me know what you think in this new season of your life. I'm out of here. Peace.